Hi, these comments are for LF, and this is Michael from BetterTOEFLScores.com. I'm going to listen to, evaluate, and score an integrated speaking practice test that you submitted. So you're practicing, it looks like you're explaining the most important points of a lecture. So this is TOEFL Speaking or Integrated Speaking Task number 4. Okay, so here's the Integrated Speaking rubric. And I always like to have this here. So I'm going to kind of think right now, you're probably in the 3 range somewhere. But as I listen to it, do I want to go higher or lower than that range? So a lot of students are going to score right in this area here. So let's listen to you respond to the topic.
This lecture is mainly about a new study performed on babies to assert if they can feel empathy towards other babies.
To assert, but I would say to determine or to find out whether. So I question your word choice right there. I think assert's not the right word.
The experiment was divided into two phases. The first phase, scientists put a baby.
Yeah, I like how you say 2 phases, first phase, second phase. So the sentence that you created there is effective in outlining, I think, 2 essential parts of the lecture. So that shows you have some cohesion strategies on how to organize the information.
Listening to a recording of other baby crying.
Yeah, and be careful about you want to say other babies crying. So you want to put the plural s on that noun
And
there.
as a result, the baby started crying.
I think just saying "and as a result," just say "as a result," maybe, and then create that next
So
sentence.
scientists concluded that noise was responsible for the baby crying.
But the problem is, who is saying this? This is actually a lecture. So you want to include more voice markers from the lecture so it sounds more like a summary and less like it's something that you're explaining. It's not your research. This isn't your study. This comes from the speaker or the professor in the lecture. So you want to acknowledge that maybe 5 to 6 times during your speaking response.
And during the second phase, scientists put a baby listen to.
So you're using that and. But remember, you don't have to keep using and. That shows limited word choice. You can use words like moreover, furthermore, in addition. I think if you use those kinds of transition words, it's going to add to what you've already said. And it's also going to show some word choice, a good range of word choice with your language use.
His own crying as a recording. And it turns out that
See, and you're relying on that same coordinated conjunction over and over and over. Not a good
the
strategy.
baby didn't cry. So scientists assumed that maybe noise was not the responsible for crying, but the feeling of empathy that the babies had towards other ones.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're probably, I think, in the 3 range here, but let me listen to it one more time and I'll give you my concluding evaluation.
This lecture is mainly about a new study performed on babies to assert if they can feel empathy towards other babies. The experiment was divided into two phases. The first phase, scientists put a baby listening to a recording of other baby crying. And as a result, the baby started crying. So scientists concluded that noise was responsible for the baby crying. And during the second phase, scientists put a baby listen to his own crying as a recording. And it turns out that the baby didn't cry. So scientists assumed that maybe noise was not the responsible for crying, but the feeling of empathy that the babies had towards other ones.
Noise was not the responsible of noise was not the reason for why the baby was crying. So I think 3 describes it perfectly here. So your speech is clear. with some fluidity of expression. So you do have some minor difficulties with pacing. I think this could be an issue. I think you can probably vary your tone a little bit more than you did during the response, and be careful about throwing those coordinate conjunctions in there as conversation fillers. So I think you did have some imprecise or inaccurate use of vocabulary and or grammar structures. My main suggestion for topic development here is, as far as I can tell, you have a pretty complete and accurate response, but I think you can probably do a little bit better in the structure and the organization of the information, particularly by putting more voice markers in there that acknowledges the professor's lecture, that it comes from him or her. I think you could do that. All right, and thank you very much. So I'm thinking you're probably around 21 to 23 points out of 30 on this particular practice test. Now, anybody at YouTube, what do you guys think? Let's interact here. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree with my evaluation here? I'm thinking it's probably 21 to 23 points out of 30, according to the guidelines that we see here in the integrated speaking rubric. So how would you score this particular practice test?